Hi, this is Chuck Boyce with Tuesday Pulse, the latest edition. Today we're going to be talking about reusable intelligence and turning systems into, or prompts into systems. Basically what we're going to go through here is just talking about how to go from a prompt into a reusable prompt into a GPT into a custom application. So promise of this training is that you're going to learn to write smarter, reusable prompts using a craft framework, or could be the create framework if you've been part of any of my previous webinars. I go between a craft and a create, but they're kind of the same. It's just getting used to the letters of the acronym itself. But then turn these prompts into consistent templates and then build your own custom GPT or a Deal.ai app if you have Deal.ai, and leave with a workflow that you can reuse every week. So the problem with prompting is that there's a little bit of a chaos involved. And so every day you rewrite similar prompts. They're never really the same, but they get the same type of output. They're also inconsistent tone, maybe results, no documented processes to reuse any of the work. And so if you've done it twice, that means you can turn it into a process. Anytime you want to repeat something, it becomes a process. And so if you learn how to prompt properly and then learn how to automate that, you're on the way to being more efficient with your prompting. So the system's first principle is what I focus on, and that is that AI is not magic, it's logical. If you don't scale your prompts, you scale your processes. Systemizing prompts gives you predictability, measurable ROI, retrainable methods or trainable methods for your team. So what you want to do is get used to prompting. And the first thing you want to do with prompting is to add structure to it. Once you add structure, you can create frameworks, and then you can create GPTs, which is kind of automating it, or you can create an application, which is a no-code product. And so the evolution of reuse, start with a prompt, a one-off question. I'm going to use ChatGPT as it's become kind of a generic term like Kleenex or Xerox. And so any LLM can be used here. It can be ChatGPT, it could be Claude, it could be Perplexity, but in general, it's an LLM. It gives you quick output. When you start adding structure using craft or create or any of the other logical structures that you may have read about, again, it gives you consistently reliable results. A template then allows you to save it in either a Word doc, a Google doc, a Notion doc, something like that, but it's something you can copy and paste, and it becomes repeatable. With a GPT, that is more an automated process. GPTs are part of ChatGPT, and they're a way to build apps. It allows you to align your team, allows you to share the apps, it allows you to share the GPTs and make it more reusable easily. Deal.ai, on the other hand, is a platform that you can white label if you wish, but you can create custom applications, and with those applications, you're then able to share them or monetize them. And so it just allows you to take your initial prompt that has been structured logically. Instead of using a template or a GPT, you can turn it into an app. So, as a refresher, CRAFT is just an acronym. Clarify, specify what your role is, spell out the steps with your actions, specify your structure and tone with a format, and then test with validate and refine and repeat. Again, CRAFT is just one easy to remember acronym, but the first three, actually the first four, are things that you should always do. Clarify could also be context. Actions could also be your audience, but in general, start with a role, say, I'm going to do this, tell it what you want to do, who you're doing it for, what you want the format to be. Want it to be a email that's 200 words, or I want it to be a spreadsheet in a table format, or whatever the format is that you want the output. And then once you see the results, you test it, you validate, you refine, you repeat, and format, or you just make the prompt better and better. The more useful that prompt becomes, then you can start turning it into other forms, whether it's in a repeatable document or a GPT or an app. So what we're going to do in this situation is to use a weekly newsletter assistant as the idea for the prompt. And we'll go from using a simple prompt to a structured prompt to a templated prompt to GPT and then a Deal app. And you'll see that just adding one more component to any of these steps just makes it more reusable, more recyclable. So the first stage, and throughout this, I'm going to be switching back and forth to a ChatGPT prompt and showing you the difference and the results. And so I will switch between prompt to the GPT program to the Deal app when we get to that point. But in general, starting with the simple prompt, this is where most people are right now with dealing with AI in their environment. They'll just write a simple prompt, such as write an email newsletter about the importance of using AI in a small business. That's just a generic prompt, and that's the problem. It is generic, it's off-brand, it can be inconsistent, there's no restructure, there's no ROI, there's no reuse. And so looking back at that, I'll just copy this here and enter that, go into ChatGPT and paste that. And so we're going to write an email about the importance of using AI in a small business. And as we go through, ChatGPT comes through, it gives you a subject, a header, and 3 or 4 paragraphs. This is actually a multi-paragraph. Everyday small business owners, it's playing the leveling field. It's pretty generic, and it's ready to see what AI can do. It adds some things based on the training that I've given my ChatGPT. It automatically puts in footers that I use consistently because it remembered what I did. But again, there's no real context. This is just a newsletter about the importance of AI. So the next step in this is to start adding the craft prompt, or it could be the create prompt or whatever. Again, you're just adding more to the prompt itself. Prompting in general, LLMs are kind of like the best intern that you'll ever find. It knows everything about anything. However, it knows nothing about what you want it to do. And so what you're going to want to do is to give it more context, give it more features, give it more ideas of how to be better at what you want it to do. Again, the more context, the better it's going to be in understanding what you want it to do. So going into the craft prompt, we will now look at, we'll go back here, and now we'll take that craft prompt and let me see where I am here. Sorry, I need to go into a document here, and I will now take this craft prompt. So I started out with write an email letter about the importance of using AI in a small business. And so now I'm going to add craft to it. And by adding craft, I'm going to tell it to clarify, use a role, give it an action, tell it the format to use, and keep it in a professional tone. And so here is a new prompt that is expanded. So act as a digital marketing consultant and write a 3-paragraph email about business owners about the importance of using AI. Explain the benefits, include real world examples and clear call to action. Include a subject line, a short intro, 3 concise paragraphs, and closing signature. Keep it professional, the word count under 200, and make it sound natural. So there's so much more that have been added. It added complete context, it added clarity, it added how you want the format, it added who your audience is, it added all of the context that makes everything more useful. And so now, instead of just a generic email, what it's going to come through is it is going to now say, here's how it helps small businesses. The intro is running a small business is doing more. It's not a luxury anymore. The first paragraph is going to be, it can handle repetitive work. Take this cafe, for example. The owner used it to track sales. It doesn't replace your expertise, it amplifies it, it has a better call to action, and then it signs off in a more professional way. And so you compare a rather generic to a more empathetic or more usable prompt. And so just by adding clarity and more context to the prompt, you get a much better result. And so if you take anything away from this, is just focus on your prompting. Learn how to prompt better. Add more context, add more rules, add more ideas. The better your prompt, the better your output. So if you don't learn anything else, practice your prompting. So going back to the presentation, once you get into that, now you can create a template. So when you use a template, it becomes reusable and adaptable. And so if you're looking at this format, everything that's in these square brackets are replaceable parameters. And so it's saying act as a specific role for a specific audience. Write a how many paragraph for something about a topic. The goal is going to be an outcome. Your tone is going to be professional, comedic, funny, witty, educational, however you want the tone to be. Then you should include a call to action or an example, and then the output, what you want it to say. To give it the greeting, give it the subject, give it the closing. However, so each variable becomes a field for any future topic. So going back into the template mode, let's create a template. And so what you would have to do with a template then is you can paste that in, but what you're going to want to do is then you have to edit. And so even though you have the general format, you're going to act as a marketing professional for, change that to small business owners, and we're going to write a 3-paragraph email about the importance of AI. And the goal is going to be a welcoming email. And the tone will be professional. Schedule and you can tell my spelling is awful today. And we'll just have the output with subject and meaning. And so even though you have to go through and edit, you do have the base outline, and then there are only a few different things that you have to update. And so you have something that you can cut and paste, but you will have to manually edit. And so it's still kind of time consuming, but you don't have to think of the original concept. There's just blanks that you have to fill in. And so now we run this and we can see that how you can transform your business efficiently, gives your greeting, the body, the closing. And so again, you're able to have something that's cut and pastable that you can give to your employees, that you can reuse the same format over and over and over again. And so now you start to have a repeatable process that you can use again and again. The next step on top of that is to make the prompt interactive. And so now, instead of this past mode where I had to actually edit each individual field, now we can go in and we can tell it to create something that's more reusable. And so now I'm going to paste in a bit longer of a prompt. And I'll go through this as I paste it in. So let's create a custom newsletter together. This is what we're talking to the prompt. And so first, answer 5 questions. Who is this for? What role should I take? What's the main topic? How long should it be? What is the format? And once you provide these answers, then I will generate the final newsletter. Create the newsletter that's a subject line, a short intro, the body, the call to action, and a signature. Now make sure the results fit your chosen tone. And so now when you run this, instead of having to manually edit the file and replace the parameters with your data, this will now go through and say, perfect, here are the 5 questions to fill in. So once you give me those, and so the first, the audience, the role is a marketing expert. The topic is AI in small business. Let's go to advantages of AI in small business. And then we'll go with the length is 200 words. And let's put, and then okay, so now I just add those bits in there, and now it gives you a subject matter, the intro, the body, your call to action, and the closing signature line. Call to action has a book an appointment. It already knows which, because of the way I've trained my ChatGPT, it knows where to go and what links to put in. And so now we went from a generic prompt to a templated prompt to an interactive prompt. And you're still getting similar results. However, it's becoming more reusable and more interactive as we go along. So the next step after an interactive prompt is to go into a GPT. And if you don't know what Chat GPT or GPTs are generative pre-trained transformers. And what that means is that if you don't know much about LLMs, what an LLM does, it's a large language model, and it is trained on different data, depending on what the expectations of that large language model are. And it will only respond to what it's been trained on. It does not think of new ideas. It does not do anything creative. It is just reusing what it's been trained on, and maybe in different formats, in different patterns, but it's not coming up with anything new. It's just transforming pre-trained data, and it's generating new ideas. That's generative pre-trained transformer, and that's what GPTs are. So what you can do is you can create this whole thing using a GPT. Now, if you have ChatGPT, you can go into their GPTs. And when you go into a GPT, you can create. Now, if you haven't gone into GPTs, the Explore option allows you to just explore who's made their GPTs public. And there are hundreds of thousands of these. And if you haven't gone through GPTs, it's worth your time just to look at some of the things that are available. But in this case, we're going to create a new one. So with this new GPT, what we're doing is you have the ability to create something, and you can just prompt along what would you like it to make, and it will help you go through and improve it through iteration. The other option is to go straight into the configure mode, which is what we're going to do here. The first thing we want to do is to give it a name. And so the name for this is going to be the, go back in here and do a paste. We're going to be a newsletter builder. This is Prompt Evolution webinar. The description of this is going to be an interactive assistant that guides users. Oh, sorry about that. Let's go back and copy this again. So it's a live assistant that guides users through creating professional audience-specific AI newsletters. So now the instructions are going to be similar to what we did, but I'll show you when we paste in here. So what we're doing here is we're, again, going through the craft idea. We're a professional writing assistant at helping users evolve simple prompts into structured outputs. Your goal is to guide users step by step to define the audience, roles, topic, length, tone, and a complete email newsletter with the structure of subject line, intro, body, call to action, and signature. Now for behavior, we're saying always begin by asking the 5 questions. Who's your audience? What role should be? What's the main topic? What length? What tone? And once the user provides these answers, combine them into a clear output. The output must be under 200 words. Keep the tone professional. Include clear formatting. If the user wants to refine, help them reiterate and never assume missing info. And so that is the gist of the instructions. Now, I forgot one thing. We'll have to, I don't have the conversation starters here. So when you create GPTs, you can add these conversation starters. And so I'm going to paste a few of these in here. So let's start. Who is your audience? And then, let's talk about, sorry, I'm losing my mouse here. What's the topic you'd like to cover? Here we have what is the tone? Sorry about that. And then we'll go into what format would we like it to be in? And the last question will be how long should it be? And what is that? That's about 5 questions. That should be enough. And so now with GPTs, you can also create knowledge bases. And with knowledge bases, you can upload files to add more context. We're not going to be doing that. You can also say which model you want to do. ChatGPT 4 is going to be the most cost-effective one. 5 is going to be a little more expensive, but have better reasoning. And then ChatGPT 5 Thinking is going to be your most advanced model, which does a lot more of in-depth thinking. And depending on which model you use, it's going to be using a different amount of tokens, which will be different costs to you. Right now in this mode, it doesn't make any difference. I'm going to go ChatGPT 4 just because it's the easiest one to do. You also have the ability to add capabilities. So you can say, do you want it to be able to search the web? Do you want it to use its canvas? Do you want it to be able to create images? And if you're doing coding, do you want it to do code interpretation and data analysis? So you can turn any of those on and off. And you also have the ability to create your own actions. So I'm not going to do any of that. You can see just by putting in this prompt, it's creating a Prompt Evolution AI newsletter, gives a description, and it adds 4 of these pieces. So now if I want to say, let's build a newsletter. Who's your audience? This audience is small. Let's see what it does here. Got it. So it's what role should I take? Let's be a marketing expert. Going on to the next one. Okay, so now this is the importance of AI in business. Great. And want it to be about 200 words. Sounds right. And the last thing would be professional. So now it's asking me what then. So instead of actually manually entering anything in, it's now just prompting along with you, giving you the ideas. And so here again, it's coming up with a basic intro, body, call to action, signature. Now it's being interactive. Do you want it to make it more persuasive or keep it balanced or professional? And so now you can go into the interactive mode of making it better. So that is the GPT version. So now we've gone from a simple prompt to a structured prompt to a templated prompt to an interactive prompt to a GPT. The last thing is to create a Deal.ai app wizard. And to do that, I'm going to bring in the Deal.ai. So if you are not familiar with Deal.ai, Deal.ai is a AI platform that you're able to white label. And when you white label, you can create your own custom apps and you can do all sorts of things and be able to monetize your knowledge, basically, create knowledge bases. However, one of their functions is what's called the app wizard. And with an app wizard, what you can do is create different wizards. Here are a bunch of different apps that I've created. You can tell that there are tons of them for a lot of different ideas. So for this newsletter, we're going to create a new app. And with the app wizard, you have 2 options. You can either use the standard version where you have to fill in a lot of things. You give it a name, what you'd want it to do, you give it a description, you upload a logo, and then you put in your inputs and your responses. For your inputs, you can specify whether you want it to be text, long text, images, URLs, toggles. There's a lot of different inputs you can do. And then for the output, you can either have images, tables, codes, or text. But to make things easy, I'm going to go in the AI Enhanced mode. So for the AI Enhanced mode, I'm going to use the same information that I had used for the GPT. GPTs and Deal App Wizard apps are very similar. And so I'm going to call this the exact same thing. This is going to be the Prompt Evolution App Builder. And for instructions, I am going to paste in the exact same instructions that I had used for the GPT. And so here I just pasted in the exact same thing, telling it what I wanted it to do and the output format. And as I mentioned, with Deal, you can create different knowledge bases. And I have a bunch of different knowledge bases already created, but I'm not going to use any of those. And so it's just going to use general LLM knowledge to create this. So if I save and continue, this could take up to 3 minutes. We'll see how the internet is responding today. And in the meantime, while that's doing that, we'll just go through. And so turn GPT logic into a public-facing tool. So you add the input fields, a topic, goal, and tone. You set your branded output, and then you capture email before download. These are various things that you can add to the Deal app creation. And we're still in the app creation mode. Now, I'll just go into a little bit of Deal.ai. In the presentation, there's some links that have my affiliate link. You can get Deal.ai. Normally it's, I think, $69, but this is a $39 a month product that you can get with my affiliate link that you'll find in the program when you download the resources. However, to add the white label feature, which allows you to customize it to your own needs, and then you can reuse any of the apps that are there. That's an additional $29 or so. So it's like $64 a month for getting a white label version that you can brand for your own. And then any of the apps that you have within Deal.ai, you can resell those as your own with just new branding. And to show you an example while this is still working, I will go to show you my white label, and I call mine EngageCraft Suite. And in my white label, this is my version of Deal.ai. Most of the things that I've done are my custom applications of niche finders and trend analysis and market analysis. And so mine was more business building. There's all sorts of strategy apps that I created. And then when we get into the content, I'm reusing the Deal.ai apps. And so actually, these are some of the apps that I've created. But when you go into the images, these are all Deal apps, image creators, video creators, and a bunch of different utilities. And so, again, you can rebrand these to be your own, or you can just reuse them as is. So results are still generating. You can see GPTs are much faster to create than an app wizard. But again, with this app wizard, you may be basing it on your own knowledge base, which you can also upload knowledge documents to the GPTs. However, this would be within an ecosystem that you can use the knowledge bases for multiple applications. With the GPTs, you would have to create a specific knowledge base for each individual app. You cannot reuse libraries, whereas when you create a Deal.ai knowledge library, you can use those for personalities and for applications. So this is still taking a little bit longer than I anticipated. And so in the meantime, let's go back and look at there's anything else. Next page is just going through the recap, but while this is still working, let's see if this has come back yet. Still has not. And so let's look here. And so again, with the prompting, stage one, you're using a tool like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, and you are writing a one-off output. Simple prompt. Craft, you're adding structured logic. You're making it much more versatile and usable. Next step is to template it, to copy and paste and have a reusable framework where you only change a few parameters. The Custom GPT then allows you to, I actually missed one with the reusable template, which prompts you for the input instead of editing the file. The ChatGPT is then customized within a GPT module that, again, prompts you for the input. And the Deal.ai app, which is still working. Actually, I don't understand why it's taking so long. Normally, these only take about 2 minutes. However, for some reason, this one's taking a little bit longer today. But every one of them just shows you the evolution of a prompt. Same concept, one prompt through 5 different systems. And we're still waiting on this. Let's go to the next slide. So, reusable prompts can create consistency. They can create efficiency, scalability, And the big thing when you go into the Deal.ai is monetization. And so when you go into the Deal.ai platform and you white label it, you're able to charge for apps should you want them to be chargeable. You can either provide those to your clients as part of your standard offering, or you can upsell them for various things. And so again, don't know why this is taking so long today, but it would come up with a similar output as the GPTs. So what I'm going to offer you today is, once this webinar is over, besides having a link to the recording, there's a few documents I'm going to create, have you be able to download this presentation. There's a template, a prompt template document. There's a quick guide for creating GPTs and a prompt to app conversion sheet. And those will all be on this bit.ly link, Reusable Intelligence. And this is still working, which I've never seen this take so long. So in the meantime, which prompt is your business going to, can you use to make reusable? Would it be best as a template, a GPT, or an app? And how can you share these with your clients? And so again, samples can be posted on my Tuesday Pulse AI if you want to share with others. So one-off prompts waste time. Craft or create, build structure. Templates create consistency. GPTs scale internally, and Deal.ai's scale publicly. Let's go one more time and see if the GPTs, the app is still not ready. So next steps is to show up again next week, and next week I think I'm going to be talking about other ways to utilize AI in your business. And so that is it for today. I hope you learned something new, and I will talk to you soon.